Today we are going into the dungeon, the forest, the castles, well, pretty much a lot of different places in Descent Legends of the Dark. This here is one of the huge games from Fantasy Flight Games. This is Act number 1. Act number 2 is out when I'm doing this video, and number 3 is on the way. In this game I am going to show you how to play Descent Legends of the Dark, which is actually not that hard as you might think, because it is mostly app driven. So sit down, my friend, and take a look at this beautiful, beautiful game. In this game there are 4 different levels that you can choose from. The one that is called Journey is simply you having a good time enjoying the game. Standard is, well, a standard game. And if you want a little bit harder, you should choose this one. And if you want it to be really, really hard, well, the last option is for you. In the app, we first get the story of what is going on in this world. Then we need to choose our heroes. And in the app, you will also make different choices. These choices will eventually affect your hero. Before each mission, the app will show you how the setup of the map looks. In this case here, we should take tile 10B, 2 side tokens, and a water underlay to start our mission. The app will also show you where your characters can start on the map. Now each player needs to choose a hero that they would like to portray as, and take that hero's hero card. On this card you can see the hero stats, and these cards are double-sided, because you can flip them over during gameplay to add hands or change your abilities. In the top left corner you can see the name of your character. In the center you will see a picture. You will also need to take the miniature that is corresponding with the character's picture to use in the game. Down to the left corner we can see some more stats. These are abilities that you can use during the game. Up here you have the move points of your character, your HP of your character. You should take the health dial here and set your health to the same as your character's at the start of the game. Here we have which attack die this hero will roll when he attacks. Here we have the shield die that he will roll when he protects himself. We have your skills down here, and all the way down how much fatigue your character can have on this card. Each player also get a reference card so they can keep a track of the hero's turn, but also the different conditions and enemy status. And then the hero needs to take their 2 starting equipment. Which starting equipment your hero has at the beginning of the game can be read in the rulebook. In this case here, Galden starts with Mirror Blades and Bloodwood Bow. These cards are as well double-sided. In the bottom of the weapon card you can see the tiny symbol here with 2 arrows. These 2 arrows should be put together at the start of the game, meaning like this, to create kind of like a little sandwich, because the side with the 2 arrows are the upgraded version of this weapon, and at the start you only have the basic. You will take these 2 cards, put them together like this with the basic side facing up, and then we need to put them in a sleeve. Now these 2 will form one card, with 2 different weapons on each side. During your game you can again use an action to flip these cards over and get a different weapon for your next attack. Then we need to create a supply of potions, trinket cards, armor cards, and also condition cards. Next we need to sort out the ID tokens. These are used to keep a track on the different enemies in the game. We need to sort out the condition tokens, the fatigue tokens, the sight tokens, but also the 3 different types of die. At the start of the game you will also have 2 heroes left over. This will be Chance, the little cat, but also Keely, the dwarf. That is because they will join you later in the adventure, so we can't use them just yet. But other than that, the setup is now done. And this goes quite quite fast. I mean, a lot of people think that this game takes a long time to set up, but it really doesn't. It takes minutes. But that is mostly because you build up the map as you are playing. Meaning that when you have reached a certain side, maybe you have flipped over a side token, well, the map will continue to evolve and grow on the table, and you will set it up during gameplay. But now we have set up the game and we are actually ready to start playing. This game is played out during two different phases. First you have the hero phase, where the heroes can take their turn. And you can take these in any way you would like to, meaning that we don't have a turn order here. Once the heroes have taken their turns to the fullest and everyone have done whatever they can or want to do, we will go into the enemy phase. So let's start by looking at the hero phase. During your turn, you can perform up to 3 actions in any order. You can of course choose to move your figure, but you can also choose to interact with different objects, attack the enemies, or try to complete different skill tests. If you want to move your hero, we first need to look at our hero card to see how many maneuver points we have. In this case, Galden has 4, meaning that Galden here could move 1, 2, 3, 4 steps out on the board itself. But he could also choose to move in front and then go diagonal instead, as you can move diagonal in this game. If there would be any terrain in the way, for example a tree, you can of course not go through the tree, because you are not the Hulk. You would need to take the long route around the tree. But if there are 2 terrains standing next to each other, but there are 2 free spaces in between them, the hero can move diagonal between those 2 spaces, even though it is a kind of tight squeeze. When there are enemies out on the board and you walk into a square adjacent to that enemy, you become impeded. When you become impeded, you lose all your movement points that you have for this moment, and now you need to either defeat the enemy or use a skill that will get you out of the impeded state. Eventually, you will also run into different elevations, and you can of course move up on these elevations as well, or jump down. If you move up on any of these elevations, you need to start from step 1 and then going up. But if you are on top of an elevation, you can always jump down, moving 1 step. But if you ever are under an elevation and you have any kind of roof on top of you, you can of course not hop from that elevation straight up, as you would break your head hitting the roof. And the same thing going down. You always need to jump 1 step in front of you and cannot end up underneath the elevation itself. And if your figure is too big to get in under the elevation, well, you simply do not fit there and you cannot go under that elevation. When you walk around in the different areas, you will also meet different types of underlays. We have the spikes, for example, and if a hero or an enemy moves into the spike spaces, they become impeded and suffer 2 damage. The water, however, when spending movement points in water, however, to move out of a water space, a hero or enemy must spend 1 additional movement point. And the poison here, if a hero moves into a poison space, they infect 1 of their cards, meaning you put an infected token on 1 of your cards. But if an enemy moves into a poison space, they become enfeebled. And lastly, we have embers. If a hero moves into an ember space, they need to scar 1 of their cards, meaning that we need to put 1 of these tokens on 1 of our cards. But if an enemy moves into an ember space, the enemy becomes afflicted or doomed instead. The scarred tokens means that whenever a hero flips a card that has a scarred token on it, they suffer 2 damage. The infected token will force the hero to suffer equal amount of damage to the number of infection tokens that they have on their cards when time passes during the darkness phase. So movement in this game is quite simple. I mean, you simply need to look at your little player's kit here to see how many steps you can move. And then you just move your figure the amount of steps out on the board itself. If there's any obstacles in front of you, well, you need to go around them. If there's any stairs, you need to start at the bottom going up, but you can always jump down if you want to. But if your base is adjacent to an enemy's base, well, your movement is over for this round, and now you either need to use any of your effects or kill the enemy to be able to move again. Which brings us into attacks. To be able to attack an enemy, you first need to make sure that you are within range. Galden here in this case is using his bow, and he has a range of 4. Meaning that he could, in this case, reach the enemy, as he is 1, 2, 3 steps away from the enemy. If he on the other hand would have had the blades in his hand, he would not have been able to reach the enemy, as he has no range on the blades. So if you have line of sight, you can attack, right? Well, it's not that easy, because some of these obstacles will actually block your line of sight. And basically you can say any obstacles that are taller than your miniature, well, they cannot attack through it. But obstacles that are smaller than your mini, for example the chest, well, your figure would be able to look over it and still take the shot. It all kind of makes sense. But if you are sure that you have line of sight, it is time for us to roll some die. And to know which die you get to roll, you need to look at your character's card. Next to the swords, you will see which type of die you get to roll. In this case, Galden get to roll the blue one. But what does the different results mean? If you get any star results, this will be a success. If you get any plus symbol, that means that you have advantage, and you can place fatigue to add 1 success. If you get the lightning balls, this is surge, and this means that you get to resolve an ability on your character's card. In Galden's case, this means that you get to add 1 success, and then you may suffer 1 fatigue to prepare 1 card. Now, depending on how many successes you got, of course you will make different amount of damage on your enemy. But this is all handled by the app. So after you have rolled the die and you have your result, you go into the app. And then you select the enemy that you have attacked. You do this by taking your hero and dragging it to the enemy that you have faced. Then you choose which weapon you have attacked with and the amount of successes. If you have any status on the enemy itself, you would apply that now. And then you simply press confirm. The app will now calculate how much damage you have managed to do on this enemy. If you attack one more time, well, then you simply redo the procedure one more time until you are done. Once you are done attacking or the phase is over, you simply press end phase and the darkness phase will begin. And that's how you attack in this game. It is quite simple. First you check line of sight, then you check which die, you roll the die, and then you go into the app and simply resolve everything in there. And the app will calculate it for you. But there is something more that you can do in this game, and that is to interact with objects out on the board. You can, for example, interact with site tokens out on the map. These site tokens can be characters that are placed out there that you meet and can interact with, but they can also be triggers that will make the map grow bigger, like in this case here. So when you interact with these tokens, well, different things will trigger. Maybe there's some person that you need to save, maybe some enemy attacks you, or the map will evolve itself. It is many different things that can happen when you have interact with these tokens, but again, it is all controlled by the app, and you simply need to follow the steps that the app tells you to do. Once you have interacted with these tokens, well, they go away from the map, because, well, now you have used them. But you can, of course, interact with more things out on the map. You could, for example, interact with the tree. Now, when you do that, you again take your hero's portrait and then you drag it to the tree out on the map. In the app, you will now get different choices, and depending on what you pick, different things will again happen. In this case here, Cyrus decided to climb the tree. and nothing really happened, besides that he got some fruit and everything is okay. But sometimes you need to do a test. For example here, Galden tried to climb the other tree, and now he needs to test might. When you try to complete different tests, we always need to look at the right side of our player board. Here we can see that we have might, agility, insight and will. Then we have some numbers and stars. These are the amount of extra successes or less successes that we will get when we roll the die. When we try to complete these tests, we always roll 2 black die. In this case here, Galden got 3 successes plus 1, giving him 4. He could choose to add some fatigue to get 2 more successes, but he also have the lightning, which gives him 1 more success, remember? So without using any fatigue, he would have had 5 successes. He would now need to take this result and put it in the app. In this case it all went well, and he actually gets to prepare 2 cards. To prepare a card, you simply take the prepare token and you put it on the card you would like to prepare. This here will let you flip this card over at your turn, and discarding any tokens that are on that card. Sometimes you will also get to focus a card instead, and that would be this little blue token here. Now, this would let you discard the token in a future turn to re-roll any of your die results. So during your turn, you can choose to move out on the board, interact with different objects, attack enemies, but there's actually 2 more things you can do. The one thing is to ready a card. When you ready a card, you simply flip that card over to the other side. And this is a great way to either get rid of any conditions that you might have on that card and really want to get rid of, or if you just want to lower the amount of fatigue that you have, or if you simply need to change the weapon because you need a better range or even a smaller range instead. Then we have the last action. The last action we have is to use any special abilities that your hero might have on their cards in front of them. Now you can see that this is a special ability by looking at the little arrow. So this here means that you may use this action this turn to shift 3. Meaning that Bryn here would get to move 3 steps forward. And then use the ability below. So once the heroes are done with their phase, we signal in the app that this phase is now over. And now the app will send us into the enemy phase. The first thing that usually happens in the enemy phase is that each hero gets to discard 1 fatigue token from their player area. And then we move into the activation of the enemies. So during the enemy activation phase, we need to watch the app. And you can see that here it shows you which enemy that will activate first. In this case, the Zealot. And the target here is Cyrus. Meaning that this enemy will try to reach and damage Cyrus. It also has a little text where it says that it will recover 2 health. Below that you can see that it has a movement of 3, a range of 3, and a damage value of 3. So in this example here, for example, the Zealot would move 1, 2, 3 steps and then deal 3 damage to Cyrus. And they will always try to reach and damage their target. But if they would not be able to reach their target and another enemy is within reach, they would of course damage that enemy instead. Don't think you get out of trouble that easy. But if the enemy would start its movement being impeded, meaning standing adjacent to a hero, it would start its turn with 1 movement point instead of the full value stated in the app. Sometimes you will have more than 1 of the same enemy out on the board. And that is where these little square pieces comes into play, because you put these underneath your mini to indicate which one is which. Other than that, the same movement and line of sight rules applies to the enemies just as they did to us. They need to take each step if they want to go up, but they could jump down. They can't shoot or move through trees or other closed objects like doors or walls. And if they step into any of the underlying areas, well, they also need to suffer some kind of consequence. Now, the enemy has line of sight on you, and they have attacked you with their full attack value. And you just need to take the punch, right? Well, no, not quite, because you have a chance of defending yourself. So to defend ourselves, we need to look over here where the shield is, to see which die we get to roll. In this case here, Cyrus gets to roll one orange die. We simply roll the die, and the same would apply here. Stars are successes. Lightning balls gets you to add anything that says down here where the lightning is. And the little plus symbol here would let you add one fatigue to a card and then get another success. Then you simply take the results that you got here and withdraw that from whatever result the enemy had. In the example we had here, the enemy did 3 damage. And Cyrus managed to get 2 successes and he added 1 fatigue. Meaning that this time he will actually take no damage on his health wheel. And that's the way you block enemy damage. We first need to check our little hero card here to see which die we need to roll. Depending on the amount of successes we get, well, we get to block out that amount of damage. But every now and then, the app itself will also give you a chance to neglect damage. But this can be from skills or traps or other enemies as well. When you neglect damage, the app will tell you to do a test. And that could be any of the tests here. Might or will, agility, and so on. In that case, you would need to roll the die to see what type of amount you get and if you are able to block out, meaning neglecting, any of the damage that is incoming to you. So you better roll those dice good, which I never do. And now we would go through the app and activating each enemy one by one. When we have activated all the enemies, we simply press that we would like to end the darkness phase. Be aware because some smaller events might trigger here. So if you take damage, you need to lower by that amount on your health dial. And then you need to indicate that in the app. And you will do that by pressing your hero's portrait. And then press Wounded Hero. Then you need to confirm it. Now, this will not kill your hero. Not yet, at least. This will just give you a minor injury. And then you get to reset your health dial all the way up to your maximum health again. If you reach 0 again, you would need to do the same thing. Press your portrait, say that your hero is wounded, and now you probably just need to flip the minor injury over to the major injury. But if you get down to 0 again, well then you are killed. And be sure to notice that this is in the standard mode. I have not played the harder modes and it might be a little bit rougher on you. There are a bunch of different injuries that you can get during your game, and none of them are that good. If one player loses all of their life points for the last time and are defeated, well, we all lose simultaneously. Meaning that one player won't just leave the board and then the rest keeps on going. No, everybody is out and we have not managed to complete this mission. And the mission will not be repeated. No, we are done. We have failed and now the story moves on in the app. In the app, it usually takes you into town. And in town, you can also do a bunch of different things. You can upgrade your weapon, you can buy more equipment, you can buy potions, and so on. There's even small little side quests in there. And depending on if you manage to actually succeed the mission or fail the mission, you would get different benefits at the end of the game. If you manage to actually complete it, you would of course get more money and more experience and so on. And if you don't manage, well, you will get a little bit less. But usually you get something. And that, my friend, is how you play Descent: Legends of the Dark. And this game is really not that hard to learn, because the app keeps track of so much for you, and really does most of the job. You just need to pay attention to your characters, maybe the conditions, and what's going on the board, what you want to accomplish, and so on. The app will do the rest. which is quite beneficial and really helps beginners or people that are new to dungeon crawlers into this gaming world. And if you have played dungeon crawlers before, well, you will learn this in no time, my friend. Now, I do enjoy Descent Legends of the Dark a lot. But then again, I like app-driven games, and I like dungeon crawlers, so this is just for me. But if you, my friend, like a good dungeon crawler, but you do not like app-driven games, well then this is probably not for you, because you do use the app quite a lot. It manages a lot of the things in the game for you, which is nice, but you do need to sit down and push the app every now and then, because that is pretty much how the whole game is driven. The only part where you do not use the app is pretty much where you move around. Other than that, the interaction with the enemies or the items or the enemy activation and so on is done in the app. As you can see here, I have chosen to paint my miniatures, which you of course do not need to do, but if you want to know how you paint them, well, I've done a video on that as well. And what I do like about almost every Fantasy Flight game miniature is that there's not too many details on them. I mean, they are detailed, they are looking nice, but there's not a bunch of extra stuff. Some miniatures, they have 1,000 pockets, different hats, gloves, and so on. These ones are pretty much scaled down, but still nice and beautiful. There you have it, my friend. That was Descent Legends of the Dark, an epic, huge dungeon crawler with many different opportunities for many gameplays, many game nights. This is highly replayable. If you like dungeon crawlers, well, check it out. If you are not that into app-driven games, well, maybe look another way. But there you have it, that was the video, my friend. If you want to know more of the game, well, check out the links down in the description. If you liked the video, why not give me a thumbs up or maybe subscribe to the channel. But most importantly, my friend, please keep on remembering to keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace out, my friend.
Thrust into the heart of the barony, Blood Sister Nakrull's mocking voice echoes through the air, each syllable twinned to a darker, more ancient chorus. She speaks with the tongues of demons, and her power will only grow.